Hello, hello, and welcome to the Kinia and Rachel Jam, where two hardworking, sometimes happy, sometimes tired mamas, sometimes both at the same time, come together to discuss being a working mom. So Rachel is the marketing manager at Kepler Academy. I am the CEO of Pros&Babes. We are both mamas of boys. And this month's topic is setting new, meaningful yearly goals as a mom, right? I'm sure that with January coming around, you've seen your LinkedIn feed being flooded with like to set goals or not to set goals, what to do, what not to do, right? All of that. So February, as January has behind us so quickly, we thought Rachel and I that we would discuss our own practices, right? And we got inspired by a Harvard Business Review article too about setting goals that you actually care about, not just ones thrown at you or defined to you by society. So happy belated New Year, Rachel.
You as well. Can't believe we're here in 2022. The last 2 years have gone by so quickly.
I know, it's crazy. I just had a flashback to jumping on a quick call with you when the pandemic hit, and we were just wondering if this was this kind of temporary thing. And here we are 2 years later. But these conversations with you are a fun, recurring event, a repeating event that I look forward to. So let's dive into the meat of our subject. Do you set New Year's goals and resolutions?
Yep. Great question. Yes, I do. Do you set New Year's goals?
I do. I would say I do. And intentions, I do. Absolutely. So
Yes.
how do you go about the process?
No, it's a good question. And I think there's that age-old proven fact that anything written down is more likely to be achieved. So I'm a list maker. I've always been a planner all my life. I love to be able to write things down and visualize them. And it's something that I think is really important, especially for working people that also want to achieve things in other areas of their life. So professionally and personally, I always write down goals. I've always loved planning for my year and seeing what I can achieve. Of course, things are going to happen that take you in different directions, but I think it's especially important for working moms and new mothers to do this too, because you can get, lost in other things and sort of forget what other goals you have on your plate. I have a whole, method or way that I do it, but I can get into that in a bit for sure.
Yeah, well, we discuss that. That's what we're going to be discussing today. So before we dive into that, what about sticking to goals, right? There's always the joke around how many people sign up for gym memberships in January and then that peters out really quickly. And, things change every 3 months in our family dynamics and life. So what about sticking to goals? Do you find that once you've set them, you're able to stick to them?
No, that's my quick answer to that. I have a hard time sticking to them, but I've been analyzing lately why that is and listening to some podcasts to try and figure out why exactly I've struggled with that in life. And I think it's because the goals that I've set previously are too grand. They're too big. They're hard to achieve. At work here or professionally, a lot of the time we use the SMART goals model. Yeah. So we're trying to make sure that they're achievable and realistic, timely. So you can put goals together that you actually know you can reach and how you measure them. And that's professionally very, very smart. You can apply that to your personal life too. But no, there's a lot of times where I say I want to lose. Sometimes I'm able to, lose the 25 pounds or finish this course that I've had on the back burner or, do X, Y, Z. I've had, for example, in 2011, I had a goal to run a half marathon and I was able to achieve it training over about 5 or 6 months only because I was training with a group of people and I was able to have others that I was accountable to reach that bigger goal. And the only way that I know I achieved it is through small steps every day. So I have a couple of kind of segues into different things that I wanted to talk about and a couple of podcasts I've listened to that have helped me with this.
Absolutely. Well, good insights. I mean, I think a lot of people can relate that it can be tough to achieve our goals, right? And stay committed to them. And I think maybe there's a quote I like, we overestimate what we can achieve in a year, but underestimate what we can achieve in a decade. So that is a key one too. I've been playing around with different timelines for setting goals. And I have a booklet here that I do every year, right? My year compass. So I've been doing it year after year after year. And I've played around with, 1-year visions, 5-year visions, 10-year visions. And I find myself in conversations recently, even this week, I was talking to a friend. I'm like, we went to university together 15 years ago. I can say I've been, no, it's kind of strange to be in that chapter of life, right? In our 30s, approaching our 40s. So I'm realizing that many of the goals I set for myself, I need to give myself longer timelines. And that's okay. Before, like, the year bucket was fine, but now I'm really more focused on those longer term goals and holistic planning, and kind of making sure that I'm
Yes.
making progress in every bucket and kind of moving in the direction of where I want to go, understanding and surrendering to the fact that sometimes really unexpected life events will happen that will transform the course of your life, right? And then you will have to go back to the drawing board. So I've been playing around more with the 3-year vision this year, and kind of seeing what can I achieve. Like in my business right now, I'm doing a lot of hiring and developing completely new skills as a leader. I can't expect that I will build all those skills in a year. I can set intentions. I can kind of set those buckets, and and we use different methods here. We use something called even the 12-week year, where we try to set like 3 core goals per quarter and not more. And even that is a skill to practice that can take years to achieve, resourcing your life properly, right? So it's a really interesting topic. Why is it interesting to you? I should have done some research for even this live. Like, why do we even set goals, right? I've been setting goals for years, and then I wonder, well, maybe there's a time in life where I don't want to set goals and I just want to live and be. Like, I'm at that stage where I'm also questioning, do we always need to have goals or something to work to? What about just being human, right? And just kind of getting back on autopilot. I'm always talking about not being on autopilot, but I'm like, I want maybe a period of autopilot. So I went all over the place here a little bit, but I'm still a fan of intention setting, whether you call it goal setting or intention setting, at least a direction, long-term visions. I love long-term visions. They just take the pressure off of accomplishing everything right now. So I can talk more to that, right? But you go ahead, Rachel. Like, how does your goal setting process work? How do you define?
I usually have, I like to have a notebook. That's my special notebook where I put list all my goals there for the year, and then I can come back to it. Once upon a time, I've done different variations of it. Once upon a time, I used something called a life pyramid, and it was similar to what you do for your 25 years in a way, where you break it down into, the very top goal for your life, and then break it down into different levels where you can achieve it. From there, that was, I probably did that, I want to say 8 or 9 years ago. And then I moved on to the, I want this spiritual goal, physical goal, financial goal. So I had areas of my life I knew I wanted to set goals in, and I would set 3 goals. And then under each of the goals, in each of those categories, I would have the steps that I would take to reach the goal. So what 3 or 4 actions am I going to take to reach those goals? Lately, I have tried to do what you're doing. Like, I've just revisited a little bit of the how, thinking about why I'm not able to, what the science behind it, and why I'm not able to do these things. What is it? And I listened to a podcast. I think it was Brene Brown. Of course, I love listening to all her different podcasts. And she had one where she spoke to a fellow who wrote a book called Atomic Habits. And it was great because it was all about, he asked the same question: why can't people reach goals that they set? Or what is it that also makes other people successful while others aren't? And it was all in those small daily habits you start to form. Again. And this is another topic that comes up with some of the folks I follow. I love minimalism, and a couple of thought leaders in this field. And I've also followed some of the things they've said about those small daily habits and micro steps. So even if you're just sort of trying and starting to get there, maybe you have a goal of, I'm going to go back to the gym, and I'm going to the gym, 5 days a week in 2022. And then by the second week, you fall and you can't achieve it. He talks about breaking it into, maybe you just get packed for the gym and have the bag by the door. And if you make that one step and that's all you accomplish for the first month, good on you. And then the second month, you know what? Maybe now I'm going to try and at least put my shoes on, like put my shoes by the door. You're one little step closer. And then once you you'll start to maybe even take one step after that. So being so easy on yourself that you start to put those little teeny habits in place and change your environment a little bit, where it starts to kind of put you on the path to success. That really stuck with me this year. And it's sort of helped me a little bit. I've sort of been on a roll to be there, but like I've ways in my life where I think I'll be able to kind of take those little mini steps.
It's such a thank you for sharing the story. And I'm seeing a thumbs up. I don't know from where, from somewhere, but as working moms, drawing back to that conversation, I think we need a lot more kindness to ourselves. Like we're often trying to fit two jobs in one, right? Being a professional and being a mom. And I keep on repeating this year that we are writing the handbooks. The generation before us maybe wanted to give us the opportunity to work wherever we wanted. And now maybe we're somewhat there, like at least some people are making inways, right? Before, women used to be in very few professions, and now women are in so many professions, and often they're trailblazers. So there's no handbook on how to properly juggle, a 40 to 60 hour week workload plus the family life. And physically, mathematically, without the right support systems, it's practically undoable. Like if we told a project manager what we're trying to accomplish in our areas, we'd see that we likely don't have all the time to do everything we want in every single area, right? So I think we have to give ourselves grace that, especially in this time of the pandemic, our capacity is quite stretched to the maximum. Even, I'm feeling it, and I'm quite resilient. Like I've been dealt so many blows in the last year. I'm like, bring it. What else can you bring to me? And even in the last week, Rachel, I can tell you behind the scenes, but there's been some pretty intense stuff happening. So, so I think we first have to start by recognizing that just being a working mom, right? And juggling the family life and the work life is a huge, huge juggling act. And I've been at it for a few years now. At first, like you just get started, you're on maternity leave, and then you're back at work, and then you're at work, and you're at work, and you're at work, and you're at work, and school's there, and life keeps on rolling along, and the mental load grows, and then people die or people get sick. And sometimes it just feels like it never stops. So I think part of that, Rachel, too, is just recognizing that sometimes we reach the limits of our humanity, right? And studies are probably, how many studies do you know about performance in women? Most medical studies, scientific studies, a lot of it is focused on men. How much have we studied women and goal setting and our rhythms and goal setting, motherhood and goal setting, right? Like not much. So maybe even the science you were reading, do we know it's right? Have they really evaluated how women experience things differently? How as mothers, do you even have to help you with your goals?
Such a good question. Everyone I talk to too, about this topic, or women in science and women in our, physiology and our minds and how we work. There's so little that we know and so much that we need to know. So the more forgiveness I think you can give yourself, the better. And of course, I think we don't realize the power in simply going through the process of setting goals, even if you're not revisiting it daily or even weekly, because how fast time also can fly. That's something, time can go so quickly, and then before you know it, 2 years have gone by. And what you think to yourself, or what I've thought to myself, is, man, if I had only started XYZ 2 years ago, can you imagine where I would be now? And disappointment rather than excitement over a goal achieved. And that's why I like to cheer on other women that I see who they finished their, maybe a professional designation, or they have gone through and done their master's degree. I have a best friend in the Netherlands who they have excellent coverage for, post-secondary. And it's just natural that most women will also finish a master's degree, will usually work 4 days a week. There's ultimate flexibility, a lot of support from extended family and parents. And she's been able to achieve this amazing master's degree and only has her thesis left. And it's something that is part of her life, not all of her life, but she's worked on it little by little, day by day, and been able to fit in relaxation, trips away with her family, enjoying her work, not being stressed every single day, all day. And she's been able to still achieve this big goal. So when I see different women doing it in different ways, I like to kind of analyze what they're doing and how they're able to do that, and try and apply it to my life a little bit too. But forgiveness is key, for sure.
Absolutely. And I don't know, I feel like talking to this conversation maybe for both of us brings almost a little bit of sorrow. Like we are but it's true, right? We are not in our 20s, we are not in our early 30s anymore. We are approaching our 40s, and it's kind of like a time of reckoning of when you start having a family, your life takes a different direction. What you believe to be true, so much less is in your control anymore. Like a lot is. Don't get me wrong. I always talk about how we have so much more power than we think, but there are just so many more variables impacting our daily choices. And so the importance of really being focused on what matters to us becomes even more important, because time is such a precious resource. So the way that I've been doing a lot of my goal setting in the last few years, because I've been playing with quite a few frameworks, some consistent, some just different flavors. I can list them, but the number one thing that you're probably familiar with right now, I have this overall 25-year vision for all the different categories of my life. And one of the reasons I really love doing that work in our workshops and in our MBA program with our clients, and then we print those vision boards, is it just takes us back into the future of what our children will say about us. To me, that's such an important question. Like when we're looking back on life with our children, what do we really, really, really want them to remember? Where essentially do we not want to have regrets? I think it's so important to ask that question, right? Because life goes by so quickly. And so I have that anchoring me and helping me think about the different areas of my life. And another framework I really like that's coming up a lot in my circles is 10x, 10 times bigger. It's kind of trendy in the sales world, the coaching world, the personal development world. But when you're trying to set a threshold for how big you're thinking in terms of a goal you're trying to achieve in your business, or if you're really setting something ambitious, what would it look like if you set a 10 times bigger goal than anything you've ever imagined? And so I do that with my client when it comes to money. And I'm like, I ask them, what do you want your net worth to be? And I'm like, well, then multiply that by 10 or by 4, and then see what you would need to do to make it happen, right? So it's just in terms of where do we anchor the future? I think like how big are we dreaming? And then what resources do we align? I think is really critical, like that projection. So this year, I've been doing tons of visualization work with mentors where I would ask them to help me visualize, where do I want to be in 5 years? Like we'd go to a location. I think about the people I want to be with. I think about the money in my bank account. I'd even think about the type of clients I want to work with, right? And or in 10 years, like I'm trying to figure out those different timelines. And it's so helpful to get into that soulful part, not just my brain, but I have them transport me in exotic locations, or just I have them transport me somewhere, and then my soul decides where it is. It's very different and intuitive process. It's not just intellectual goal setting. So those are some frameworks that I've been working with. There's my 25-year vision. There's always my values board. I constantly find myself going back to my core values. Interesting. Okay, I will make a confession here, and maybe I will backtrack and backpedal on this, but I've realized that in this season of my life, maybe health is not one of my core goals. And I will not be ashamed to say that maybe I'm not completely ashamed of it. Maybe this is a time, it's very strange to say this publicly. And, and even when I talk about working with my clients in a way, build a life of professional happiness and health where a professional success where you won't compromise family happiness or health. But I've just realized that, or maybe it's not health the way I envisioned it. Like last fall, I started swimming every morning. Right now, I'm not doing it. I injured my back, right? And so I had to do physio, and I have not been able to get back into my routine. And instead, I've been sleeping longer and sleeping in the company of my kids and snuggling them. And that's a different way of honoring my health. Maybe I'm not honoring my cardio and my muscles and my skeletal system, so. And sometimes there are periods of my life where I give like everything to my business. And yes, my health suffers. I would say sometimes it does. But parts of me are making peace with that for certain periods of time. Like I've come to that season of my life where I realize I'm so passionate about the work that I'm doing. I feel like I found such a strong calling that maybe sometimes in some seasons, maybe I am paying the price a little bit with my health. And it's so hard to say this and affirm this publicly like that, because my father passed away of cancer. So you would think like, health would be my number one priority. But my 3 core values still, I go back to faith, love, and accountability. And I just know, in this pandemic season with my children, with childcare sometimes being closed, sometimes being open, like unexpected things, I cannot just, with ice outside, with the horrible weather, sometimes we'll go cross country skiing, but I just cannot keep up with the health routine that I wish I would really have, right, consistently. And I have to forgive myself for that. And that's been a very big shift for me. It's so, I don't know what this brings up for you, Rachel. It's strange for me to even say that. And you're muted right now, so I'll have to.
I stayed muted just because I've got some noises, but there's so many things that you've touched on. But I think too, all cylinders can't fire all at once. How are you supposed to give 100% to every area of your life all the time?
You can't.
There's no way. And like you said, intellectual goal setting, and from a professional perspective, you can look at your work and look at your business and do that. And of course, you have to plan long term. I love what you said about the 10 times the threshold on big thinking. And you have to, visualization is so powerful, number one. But then when it comes to the daily things that you're doing in your life, I think as long as you're keeping the things that you want to do in your mind, you're building, you have that awareness, very heightened awareness, and you know what you want to achieve. But again, too, sleeping is just as much important for your health and your fitness, if not more, and giving your body rest. There's so many different things. And you really have to, at the end of the day, decide, what is it? Like what daily routine do I really want to build here? But what's also realistic? You have 2 young kids. I do the same thing you do. I always sleep in the morning, and I'm spending time with my little guy, and I know he's there, and I'm resting, and I give myself a little bit more time in the morning. There are some days where I can get up a little bit earlier and maybe go for a walk. But again, too, we have ice outside our house. It's really hard to be able to kind of walk down the walkway. So I balance it. Yes, I have feelings of guilt sometimes and regret, and maybe, oh no, I wish I could be doing this or this or this, but there's only so much that you can accomplish in a day. And, if you continually feel bad about what you're not doing, how can you celebrate the things that you are achieving? One thing people, maybe I find I don't do, and I don't know about you, but when you're revisiting the end of the year and thinking back on the goals you made previously, are you actually giving yourself enough credit for the things that you've achieved? Or are you saying, do I need to do more? Or are you actually celebrating how far you've actually come and what you've actually done? That's something that I think is lost. The fact that we actually reflect and can say, yes, I did that. I did build my own business. I did achieve this goal. I did present at this conference, and look at where I am now, and look at the team that I'm working with. This is when you look back, where were you and where are you now? Like kind of rewinding it instead of looking 25 in the future. That's kind of what it brings up to me. And when you were talking about the 25-year vision, and that is what you work with your team, I remember you telling me about that last fall, and we did an exercise with Kepler and our corporate team where we were all sharing a photo that was very important to us. And I have one of my grandparents and I when I was 3. And that 25-year vision was something I was thinking about when I was showing them this picture. And, that long game, thinking about where are you going to be and what would you want your children to say about you, and what are your values? Like, what do you value? And when I look at that photo, that's what I think about. I think about my values and what I want long term, and how there's little things that I'm doing every day that contribute to that. So having the 3-year vision and then having the 10 and 25, they just look different. But you do need to think that far ahead, but you also need to give yourself grace in the moment every day.
Well, I love that when you were mentioning reviewing the last year, what you said also brings up quite a bit for me. But the tool I use, the Year Compass, it has a whole page that you start with reviewing all your last year and special moments. And I really like that exercise. So the whole first part is about reviewing the past year. And then it's about setting intentions for the next year. And they're the different buckets, right? Personal life, work, studies, profession, relaxation, friends, community. And I've been doing that for many years. And I have to say that everything I've written in these booklets, like most of it I've achieved, if not 1 year, the next year, right? Some of the goals I set myself, I would say for my business financially, I mean, at first, when I started really growing aggressively, I had, very, very ambitious number goals. And when I didn't reach them at first, I was really frustrated. But now I know I need a team to reach those, right? Like they're just not, that's why I talk about those 10x goals that are very trendy and in the growth space, but it's just it allows you to think you're building a legacy that's bigger than you. Like when you think about your position and what you're doing, how many people are experiencing the childcare that your institution is providing because you were there every day making sure the message is out. And if you didn't do the work you did, how many people would have missed out on the opportunity of knowing about you as an institution? And maybe you never set that truly as a goal for yourself, but the impact you make every day is so significant, and the legacy you're building over time, and the impact you're making on families and their quality of life is huge, right? And I think we tend to forget the ripple effect that our energy and actions have every day.
Right.
You'll focus on that goal of wanting to lose pounds and then, not be happy that you weren't able to achieve that goal. But then you forget to celebrate the huge impact you are making on the daily with your work and the consistency and the showing up and being present for people, right?
Yes, it's all in the small, everything is done in small pieces. No huge leap is done all at once. Unless you're like Trinity from the Matrix or something. There's no way. It can't be done. That's not how it's done. But great things are built over time. We all know that. And I think it's just knowing what small step you have to take first. And that's where a lot of people get hung up, I think, because they have this big goal. And I actually read another book called The Way of the Peaceful Warrior quite a long time ago. And I love that book because there's so many lessons in it that are philosophical and talk about this like goal of reaching the top of the mountain and winning this like medal, right? And all athletes and other people are trying to achieve these big goals and big dreams. They think that that's kind of like the end game, getting that medal. That's what they want and that's it. But the magic in the process and the happiness is actually in the journey and not the destination. So how can you build the feeling of loving your body and being proud of your body? For example, if it's a physical goal you're trying to achieve, try and build the feeling you're trying to achieve in every day. And you'll eventually get to the point where you're where you wanted to be. And you're just doing small little things to achieve that, or small little things to kind of start creating that reality in your life. I feel good. I feel strong. I'm getting up 10 minutes early today. Good for me. Like just 10 minutes. Try not to make it an hour all at once. Maybe just make small little adjustments first.
Yeah, absolutely. It is the small things that add up. And another framework that I really liked, so I looked at the big one that's 10x, but there's one that's called the 12-week year, and then the one thing. And so the 12-week year is about getting more done in 3 months than most people get done in a year. And the one thing is about the domino effect, that if you do it, will make everything else much easier or unnecessary. So we kind of, when we work with our clients in the MomBA, we go through this step of prioritizing. Like we go big picture, and then we go down to those 4 core goals, right? That if they want to be where they want to be in 25 years, so funny to bring it back to health, but like you do have to take care of your health if you want to be alive and kicking in 25 years, right? You just have to, you can't neglect it forever. So it's funny. I'm just kind of catching myself out of my own hypocrisy, right? But yes, right. It's a process.
You do. I feel like, well, I wanted to interrupt you when you said that originally, because I'm like, don't, Kinia, you do prioritize your health. You eat well, you do this, and this. Just because you're not getting up and swimming in the morning, does that mean you're not prioritizing your health? It's made me kind of question it a little bit.
You know what? You're right. I think just that the computer work can take a toll on our bodies. I should probably do my stand-up a little bit more often. And I look forward to things getting a little bit less icy. I mean, my first step could be maybe getting traction aids, so I actually resume even some walks when it's icy. Right. But I can't say I've completely deprioritized health, but it's a season of life where maybe I'm pushing harder in some areas, so my body feels the strain more.
Yeah.
But going back to the one thing, the domino effect. So I know that in my company I have like about 7 divisions, more or less, right? The CEO office, IT, HR, program delivery, blah blah blah. And at any given time, like there's one area that if we give it more focus, it's going to move the dial on everything, right? And so we kind of think
Yes.
about quarterly, what is going to move the most like the dial the most, what is going to bring the most consistency. And some of the most measurable ones, like when it comes to sales, right? Sales is a numbers game. You have to have enough conversations with people. And so I see it. You have to set the intention. You have to put the number there. You have to keep on getting out there. You have to consistently take that action. And then you see the results. Every time I was like clear with what I wanted to achieve, even just increase my sales, well, I had to take the action. I couldn't avoid doing certain things, right? So I love that 12-week year framework because it allows me to take my 25-year vision and then come back to these 12-week frameworks and then think about like, what are the things I really need to prioritize? So there were seasons of my life, let's say when I lost my dad, where like I really needed to prioritize the physical activity piece. Otherwise, nothing else would move, right? If I didn't do my walk, if I didn't get that physical movement in, like I would just completely lose stamina. And that had to be my one thing before anything else could move, or getting more joy into my life, right? And then there came a point where I really had to really grow my team. Like I had to really take leaps, and I just could not stay stuck in fear anymore about hiring and growing my business. So like that goal for the next 3 to 6 months will have to be really focusing on team building. And then like that's going to set other things in motion. And one of the reasons too I like that 12-week year framework is that things really do kind of almost go in these quarter, like, you can be in one place in September, and then by December, so many things have shifted, and it's a good time to reevaluate and then see what else needs to move the dial, right? So working with women too, we've played around with this framework a lot. Some are really rigid with it, some less. So I like to think of like a season of productivity and a season of flow, season of productivity, season of flow, right? I think that's where the more feminine thing can come in. Like when we talk
Smart.
about being in this
Yes.
goal driven, it's a very masculine energy, right? I don't know if you've read a lot about the feminine masculine flow, but like, masculine, goal driven, linear, feminine, mysterious, receiving, right? And so when we're in these demanding professional careers, we often like push, 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 push. And if we're people pleasers too, or perfectionists, we forget that if we give, we're also allowed to receive. We're allowed to receive the money that our work is worth. We're allowed to receive the rest. We're allowed to receive the love. We're allowed to receive the praise. But so many of us are just in this push goal setting. And the goal setting industry is often focused also on just always pushing, pushing, pushing. But, we have different flows as women, as mothers. And so no wonder we sometimes feel burnt out if we just define life through like achieving goals. Life is not just about that, right? It's also receiving the joy and the love and the fruits of our labor and the impact. So
So
from
true.
25-year vision to 12-week year, and rest and flow are kind of the different pieces that I work with that have allowed me overall to, achieve a lot, experience good things, kind of get me out of funks, get me in periods of boost. And ultimately, I'm back at a place where I'm reconnecting more with what it means to be human. What does it mean to be human in this time? Like, how do I want to feel and live in my body? Do these goals really matter? Do they not? Right? It's interesting how it's an interesting season of the motherhood journey, right? I see a lot of moms who are just new with their newborn babies and starting like this stage. And now you and I are a couple of years in, right? And there's a different flavor to it, right?
Oh, totally. And everything else sort of has to, I mean, I feel like I'm always defining goals, whether they're personal or professional, by the roles that I'm currently playing. And when you're thinking, not currently playing, but currently in, I mean, there's going to be times in our lives where we no longer have children at home who rely on us every day. And, I've seen different situations too, where, maybe women don't spend as much time thinking about what those goals are for them personally. Maybe like, for them as an individual, separated from their children or their family or their partner. And then they're thinking long term, well, what is it that I would want to, how would I want life to look in 25 years? And they're not sure. And then when they get there, they're a little bit lost. And time goes by so fast. I feel like none of us really realize it, but it does go really quickly. And that's why I think it is so powerful to do what you're doing with your clients. There's no way that if you don't at least take that step or do some of that planning, that you're going to be, it doesn't even give you a basis to work off of. It doesn't even give you an idea in your head of what you want. And when you're not clear on your values and your goals, then it makes it hard to make decisions every day too. does this really align with what I want to achieve this year? And then being able to say no to things. And again, that I love the rest and receive. And then I also love the fact that you do the work to make clear about those goals. So if something does come up in your life and it's something that doesn't fit or suit your trajectory that you've set, you can say no to it, and with more confidence, instead of I'm not sure, or, maybe not. Like it makes it a lot harder to navigate through those situations and conversations. But if you have done this work and set aside some time to do it and make it clear, even if it's not something that you look at, you can at least come back to it all the time.
Yes. Yeah, that intention setting is so important. And again, I go back to the 25-year vision. It's such an anchor for me because, well, we have the opportunity to touch so many people and do so much good in our lives. And as long as I feel like I've walked towards that vision, I've lived my values, I've been faithful, I've been loving, I've been accountable, I know that I'm moving in the direction that I'm divinely called to be on, right? And I know that even today, like I think about the blessing I've had. I had the chance to go for a dinner with a client yesterday, and she was telling me about the impact our work on her has had: a 40% raise, a 4-day work week, a higher title, confidence through the roof, her company respecting her even more for her contribution. She says none of that would have happened, has it not been for the work we did together. I know that even, and the clients that are staying with us for a second year, because what's interesting in the pathway is that when you really start asking yourself, what do I want? You get on this first layer, but then you re-examine it and you really wonder, is it what I want, or is it what people wanted for me? Right? So it's almost like you have to do the process a few times to examine, what do you want to keep? What do you want to choose? Which battles do you want to fight? Which traditions do you want to keep? Right? It's a multi-year process. And I always tell myself on the harder days, and I kicked off 2022 with a bang. And then obviously when you grow, obviously new challenges come your way. So I'm facing all sorts of new challenges that I didn't have to face last year. But I tell myself, even if I stop my work today, I know I have the satisfaction of having impacted so many mothers and their families. And I've made a lifelong footprint on their quality of life, on the quality of the life of their children, on the value they are now aware they bring to their employers, and even like higher value they bring to their employers because they are aware of it, right? So once you're aware of it, you do more of what's good, like people recognize you more, and you get on this virtuous positive circle. So that is the power of intention. We can truly move mountains in a short period of time. Sustaining these results over time is a different dance, right? You have to get more in those cycles of productivity and recovery. But all of that started because I had an intention. The seed was planted. Something somewhere gave me the permission to dream big. How big I will go, I don't know. Like I will have to listen to my body, perhaps go back, go forth, experiment, succeed, fail. But the power of intention is huge. And so whatever tool you use for goal setting, I recommend anchoring it in a bigger vision, right? For whoever's doing any goal setting or reevaluating things, give yourself a chance to dream big holistically in all areas of your life. Use it as a North Star for your legacy. And then always try for different seasons, whether it's a 3-month period or a year, just like chip away, and you will have a life of huge satisfaction to look at, right? And know that some goals are the work of generations. You will get something started and maybe your children will take it on, right? That is, we don't have to accomplish all those goals alone. They can be a group effort and a team effort, and there's a satisfaction to that too. So very philosophical today.
Well, it's interesting because we started talking about 2022 goals, and then we got into way bigger goals. But I feel like 2022, when some people are like, I haven't even thought about what I'm doing in like March yet. They're not even in the next month, which is okay. It's okay not to, be there. I like to think long term. I like to think into December, but right now, there's so much going on, I think, in the world, especially in health and politics and community, that people feel bogged down. They feel exhausted. They're like, I don't know what I want. I don't know where I want to be. I don't know what December is going to look like. I don't know if I can take that holiday I've been waiting how many years to take, and I mean, we live we live in a world, there's a lot of conversations going on. And I feel like maybe just making some goals can help anchor you. And then you just have to, at some point, surrender to what's going on in your life. I had a goal of doing way more public speaking back in late 2019. I wanted to, host more events or MC different things and be able to stand up and speak at different events. And haven't been able to do that in 2 years. And I'd love to be able to go back to that and find opportunities to do that. And now I'm finally seeing, okay, things are opening up. They're feeling a little bit better. Maybe this is something that I can revisit. So it's having it written down, or at least having an idea of what those things are. You start to work toward them slowly, even if it's subconsciously. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Rachel, thank you so much for this conversation. If you're watching a replay, if you've tuned in, if you enjoyed it, if you are goal setting, let us know. Let other parents know in the comments what tools you like, what's working for you, what hasn't worked for you. We chose this article that was written a couple of years ago, Stop Setting Goals You Don't Actually Care About, to stimulate this conversation between us, right? So that's a good reflection. It's not too late. It's never too late to be intentional. It's never too late to do a year compass. So, at Pros and Babes, we love to encourage you to live your life intentionally, to choose to reclaim your power, to reclaim your story, your narrative, and realize that you can't control everything. There's a lot you can't, but you can surely work on those thoughts. You can write, you can surround yourself with different people, you can change environments in many cases. And, so many good things can happen for you and for your children and your family. So again, this is the Kinia and Rachel Jam. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next time.